All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Operatory Empires, the show for learning the business side that dental school does not teach. Today, we're going to be talking about investing, all things investing, stocks, and real estate. And we have a very special guest. You may know him as Invest with the DDS, Dr. Mike Mackney. How are you doing today?
Doing good, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course. So if we wanted to get started, why don't you tell us your journey about, getting out of dental school, realizing that you didn't know about this stuff and why it was so important, you think, to learn?
Um, so I graduated dental school in 2019 and I did residency starting in 2019 on Long Island in New York. And I stayed on as chief resident at that time. And at that time, right before then, dentistry was like the number one career, 3 years in a row, 4 years in a row. And then COVID shut everything down. And then suddenly people I know who were dentists need to now take out loans just to pay their employees. They didn't know when they're going back to work. So it went from a career that was like automatic to not as automatic anymore. And things ended up opening fine. People started making money again with dentistry. But it was at that time in the COVID times when I wasn't seeing as many patients in residency that I started to like kind of start thinking I need to think there's other ways of making money than just how much chair time I have. So I started to read, listen, watch as many things as I possibly could. Um, Real estate investing, stock investing. Eventually, I got into more advanced stuff like options trading. And I started seeing that I didn't want to be an owner because I like other things outside dentistry. And from what I've seen across the board, no matter what an owner says, they have way more time there and more responsibility than any associate will ever have. And I just don't, I like clocking out. I like making my W-2 income and then having some side income to make up for the time that I can do other things. Like there's days off where I make more money doing some things with options than I do if I'm at work and I'm just literally at home, like chilling on my couch. And
Yeah.
so I started seeing my paycheck as like a springboard to making other money, getting into real estate investing and using my name as a dentist for getting more doors opened when it came to investing because people take you more seriously when you have like a title like that. And yeah, it's just kind of snowballed from there to where dentistry has kind of just been my profession now, not something I plan on doing forever because of
Yeah.
that. I think that it's just opened up more doors for me.
Definitely. I actually posted a TikTok the other day where I asked, like, does any dentist regret owning? And some dentists, like this one guy, he says he helps dentists buy and sell practices, and he was like, I see it all the time. Like, people definitely regret it, and a lot of them were like, maybe I don't regret it, but I do miss just being able to walk out the door and not have to worry about dentistry until Monday, you know? So that's definitely like one of the best parts about the career is you can have like a really great income without having to own versus in other things. Do you mind just getting into the basics of stocks, like the difference between like an ETF versus an option, and then real estate, and kind of the pros and cons between each of them, and maybe where you spend your time investing now?
So stock is just an ownership in any company. It's like Tesla, Microsoft, Boeing, Bank of America. It's just the biggest companies, you're getting a small piece in them, hoping that it grows over time. It's just like buying seeds, hoping that they grow. Some seeds will grow faster and stronger than others, and some won't last forever. Um, with that, it's more long term. So if I want to buy a stock in a single company, I'm looking at it for years down the road. An ETF works the same way. An ETF is just the best example I usually have with a stock versus an ETF. Stock is like one flavor of like a jelly bean, just like strawberry. An ETF is like that bag of jelly beans, like the 500 ones you get. That's like the S&P 500. You can have Nvidia in there. You can have Meta in there. You can have Visa. If Meta has a terrible year, your ETF could still be fine because it's a small little piece in there. If you just have Meta, it's not going to be the best thing to have because if Meta has a bad year, your entire portfolio has a bad year. So it's just ownership of a single stock is just that one company. ETF is you want a little piece of everything, but you don't get the same upside if that one company does well because it's lower balanced in there. An option is it's a way of kind of more or less not betting. It's a can't think of the better word, but you're predicting which direction that the stock will go in a leveraged manner. So if, for example, Apple goes up 1% tomorrow and you own the stock of Apple, you make 1% gain on Apple. But if you have options on that and it goes up 1%, your option contract can go up 60%. So you are, if you, I've been looking at charts since 2019, just in my spare time. I literally spent like Saturdays just like evaluating them. And you can look back to like the 1900s, 1800s. Charts tend to follow the same pattern. So they're not always going to be 100% correct. But if you put like the odds in your favor, I've seen that things can go well if you combine charting with options because you can get that leverage of a movement. That's more short term for me. That's not my long term look. That's like extra cash on the side, like I'll do on a day off, on vacation, on the plane to a vacation, things like that. So those are the two like ways to get involved in stocks. You can do stocks slash ETFs, which is mostly what's going to be in your 401k, your IRA, your brokerage accounts. You don't really put options into there because that's not really for retirement. Real estate was the one I really started getting into because of its tax benefits. And that one is the downside of that is it's a lot more difficult to get into because you need to analyze the property, you need to find the property, you need to find a contractor for the property. You need to analyze what city you want to do it in, if it's not going to be local. You need to figure out if you're going to rehab it, are you paying for the rehab? Is someone else paying for the rehab? And it's a lot easier to pick the right stock and recover if it goes wrong than a real estate investment going wrong. Because if I pick the wrong stock and it goes down, I might lose like a couple $100. If I don't analyze a deal right in real estate, or the area doesn't work out as well, or the contractor kind of screws me over, that could be tens of thousands of dollars, and that could set you in the gutter. So I have about 5 rental properties now. I've done them all long distance, all using other people's money, just do connections for rehabbing them, purchasing them, and then I end up refinancing them. The first one I got was just traditional method, 25% down. Then I end up going a little bit more advanced with using other people's method. But that one's it's the best for building wealth long term, in my opinion, just because you have someone else paying with the rent, your mortgage down, it goes up over time, and you can leverage it a lot easier than with stocks. But for beginners, it's a lot easier to get into stocks because of the less risk, and it's easier to open a brokerage account than go analyze like a property long distance. Those are the three main things I go into. Real
Yeah.
estate, stocks, like in brokerage accounts, IRAs, and then options for more like daily cash.
Yeah. With real estate, since there's so much like other people, I guess, can kind of like you need to make sure the contractor's good. You need to make sure these things are good. Doing it long distance, how do you maintain quality with that? Do you have people in these areas?
Well, the first one that I think that I got that ended up working out was you want to find a real estate investor friendly agent because they are the ones that work with investors the most. And what they focus on is getting deals to investors. So they are very, very sure that they give you a good connection. Because if they're seen as someone who gave you a bad connection, all you need is just tell everyone else, like, hey, don't go to this agent. They're not going to give you anyone that's good. So they make sure they give you good people to work with. So I found a good agent. He gave me a good lender. I asked a good lender, do you know a good hard money lender? A good lender gave me a good hard money lender. I asked a good hard money lender, do you know any contractors? Got a contractor from him. Do you know any property managers? And so everyone who wants to do well in the real estate game understands that their reputation is everything. If they are giving you a bad name to not work with, no one's going to want to go back to them. So that's pretty much how I trusted it. Because even if it was in my own backyard, I wouldn't know what I'm looking at with a property anyway. That's not
Yeah.
my thing. As long as the numbers made sense, I analyzed it, and I trust through enough references that I trust the people that I was confident with it. And then at certain parts in the rehab, I spend like $100 for an inspector to go out to make sure it's moving along. And then I also don't give the contractor all the money up front. I do it in phases. He'll do 10%, send out the inspector. Looks good. Here's the next 10% for the next part of the rehab. Looks good. Next 10%. So you don't want to give everything up front. It's like doing a $60,000 treatment plan on someone without collecting any money, and then they skip town. You want to get something up front to make sure that like they're held accountable.
Yeah. Mentioned that the tax purposes were pretty beneficial. I've heard that about real estate, but I'm not really sure what the specifics are. Do you mind explaining like how you can use real estate to benefit your tax situation?
A lot of it depends on your W-2 income, not W-2 income, your W-2 status. Do you use it as your full-time position, more in real estate versus not? Because then it depends on if it's active versus passive income, but that gets a little too much into it. But overall, there's things you can write off with your taxes, depreciation, sometimes your property taxes, rehabs towards it. But that can go helping your taxes. The main one I did this past year was the short-term rental loophole. It gets a little detailed, but long story short, if you own your own Airbnb and you run it yourself more than anyone else, X amount of days per year, you can use it, and then you're basically able to write off a significant portion of that rental property through something called cost segregation and a depreciation study. And there's one podcast I heard of like two urologists who got like a condo somewhere, and they were able to write off enough to where they didn't pay any taxes for that because of that one
Crazy.
Airbnb. Because of the way that accelerated depreciation works, that's mainly through short-term rentals. So I've said to other doctors before, if you want to get into real estate and you really want to take advantage of the tax benefits that come with it, the biggest one is seen with the short-term rental loophole.
Yeah, that sounds crazy. That's super interesting. Has it been relatively passive for you? Obviously, stocks and options I feel like are the most passive because it's just on your phone or computer, but real estate's a
Mhm.
little more active probably.
It's the opposite. There's me and my wife run one Airbnb in upstate New York. There's sometimes we forget we even have a guest. And then it just becomes like everything's systemized. It's like doing things in dentistry. Like the next step is this, the next step is this. Every now and then, an appointment runs a little differently, just like any other day or week or month in real estate might run a little differently. But I have a property manager for everything. I have an Airbnb in Columbus right near the campus that someone's running for me. I'll get a weekly invoice to pay them. They rent it out. They furnished it. I have a two long-term rentals there. I get the checks every month. If there's an issue, they take care of it. I have a midterm rental there, which is for like traveling nurses, people who need a place for like a month or month and a half. Someone furnished that for me. I just paid for the furnishing. It's it's not as crazy. Unless you want to be a god and be the property manager yourself and save the $100, by all means. But it's people have this other job for a reason as a property manager. You realize
Yeah.
it. Like I honestly would say it's options is the most active for me because that's what I try to get cash on the daily. If I have time at lunch in the morning, if a patient cancels, I'll do that. Real estate, I'm just holding that for the long game. That's my long term baby. That's the one that I plan on holding for years and years and
That's really cool. I never would have thought that that's like how it would be passive versus active. For student loan situation, what do you think? Did you choose to invest in these things instead of paying them off, or what do you think? Like, what do you consider when you're looking at this?
the way I did it at first, I my initial goal was to pay off my loans as quickly as I could. And then like I said before, my first rental property was at 25% down, saved up as much as I possibly could to get that one property. And then I learned about something called like the Bird method, where you just use other people's money to get the property and then you pay them a monthly amount per month. And so that was able to build me wealth a lot quicker then paying debt would get me wealthy in the long run, if that makes sense. So one rental property that I did like $1,700 a month to a hard money lender can give me in 6 months through a good refinance, $130,000 in equity. In 10 years, let's say I want to sell it and that equity is now 300,000. After taxes, I could sell that, get back like 180K, paid off my student loans or a big portion of it through that one deal that I did. The numbers might be a little like easy there, but I'm not thinking how much can I pay down now? It's more what can I leverage now to accelerate for me. So I'm okay holding off paying the loans down right now to get a big chunk later on through just
Yeah.
one property.
Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like there's so many ways to go about it, but that's a good way to think about it. Was just like how much leverage can you get from it instead of just paying that money now?
Yeah.
Especially because
Sorry, go ahead.
no, no, you got
There's two like it's like it's like a sport. There's offense and there's defense. If you are too much in the defense right away, like I don't want to invest, I want to just just go through my student loans. Who's more likely to start investing? The person who's doing like 50-50, investing and paying down their student loans right away. And then once all the loans are gone, they are more able to go actually into investing. Or the person who's 100% defense the entire time, scared of any kind of debt, only wants to pay down their debt, doesn't want to invest. And then finally, when they have no debt left, it's easier said than done for them to then go into actually investing because they've been in such a debt-free mindset, using their money, afraid of like the inevitable of the market crashing. That's going to be so much harder for them to actually start investing than someone who did like even a 50-50 split. I'm a little bit more aggressive. I'm probably like, I was like 85-15, like investing and then student loans. It's it's really hard to flip that switch if you don't at least do a little bit.
it. Yeah, that's makes a lot of sense. People, especially with this, when you never like touched this amount of money before, it can be scary if you're not doing it consistently.
Mm.
Compound interest is also something people talk about a lot, where the earlier you invest, obviously can become way more money in the future. So I actually have an interesting, I guess not maybe hypothetical, and I was curious to get your opinion on it versus when it comes to investing in yourself versus investing in the market. So say two dentists come out of school and like a year later they have $20,000 and they're both 27. One of them invests in an implant course with that money and the other one puts it right in the market. And the dentist that invested in the implant course does one implant a month at probably, would you say like $5,000 for implant, abutment, and crown? Ish.
Yeah, on average. The probably my office tends to do them a little bit cheaper, just to, like to get people a little bit more of a opportunity to have one. I'd probably say like 3750 to 4500 range.
Okay. So if he did one a month at that rate and the other dentist just put that money in the market and he invested, if he made like 30% off of each of those implants and put that in the market instead, I got that he would have like over $5 million at 65 and the other dentist would have $500,000 at 65. So where do you balance investing in yourself and your skills as a dentist versus investing in things like the market? Or when did you maybe transition where you're at the beginning of your career, you were like heavily invested in your skills?
Well, I got very lucky with a lot of people. So I'm 34 now. A lot of people that I graduate with, they were between like a bunch of different offices. A bunch of them honestly just hated GP so much that they just end up specializing. I've been at the same practice for 5 years now. And with that, I've gained more confidence from the staff I work with, my owner, the other associates to build my skills. And I haven't necessarily needed to go pay the 20 grand for an implant course because a lot of it was learned on the job. Yeah, but it comes down to like, is that person actually going to invest the money that they're getting per month, or are they going to be like living the doctor life and like getting the BMW? Um, I think if you're early on, try to invest in the skills that can get you more money. Definitely. I don't think 20 grand up front is going to do you much in the market if
Yeah,
you don't build your skills after that. But if you can get those 20 grand skills, to actually then go use it and then build your income. As long as you would start investing that more income, that's the better option. But I think too many people, from what I've seen, go to a CE, get excited, and don't implement it. It's easier said than done to take, like, it's a lot, it's very difficult to have an office that is not in that mindset and flip it overnight. It is extremely difficult. That's why a lot of people leave, because they see the office that they're at is not helping them grow. So the 20 grand CE is fantastic to do as long as you can implement it and take advantage.
Yeah.
That's the route that I would go. I would do something to build my skills first, that get me more money, more income, and then use that more income to snowball everything from there.
Right.
Investment, because you can't invest without extra money.
Yeah. That's definitely a good perspective to have on it. Did you have any, was it just, you said it was lucky with your office? How did you find your office that was like willing to mentor you, I guess, in that way?
It was through a friend I went to residency with before I took chief year. And he was just saying, like, you should come shadow, you could really get along with the boss. And I shadowed every Saturday for 7 months straight. And it came down to it in like May. I was supposed to finish my chief year at the end of June. In May, there was an opening in the office. And the guy's like, if you want to come on, you can. And he's like, I can't guarantee it's going to be there once you graduate for chief year. Um, but if you want it, it's yours. So I left chief year. So I didn't get my chief status. And I've been there. I was told by attendings, you're making the worst decision you possibly can. Where your name is gonna be tainted. And I was like, I really don't care. This is my career. I'm gonna make the decision I want. And I've been there since. So
Yeah, and has there been a day where you thought that was the biggest mistake of your life? Yeah,
I'm so happy that I have.
exactly.
If you see an opportunity, take it.
Yeah. Awesome. I have a question. If you could add a class in dental school that teaches the basics of like finance, investing in real estate, what do you think that curriculum would look like? What would you want to include to make sure that every dental student in the country would graduate knowing these things?
Just not even like the nuances of like how money works. That I think that you can honestly learn in like a day. Like just like how to properly like open like a credit card, how to open an IRA, like what is a stock. That is probably the easiest part about investing. That you can Google, YouTube in 2 seconds. It's the mindset that comes with it. How to be scared, how to not be scared during a market crash. How to look at the long-term approach with investing. Because when you get out of dental school, you're a second year, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're 2 years away from that first paycheck. When it lands in your hand, you're not gonna want to invest it. You're not gonna want to be frugal with it. You're gonna want to finally reward yourself for all the years of neglect. That's the hardest part. That is by far the hardest part, is going from 0 to 100 in no money, like you're literally living off like nothing, to now you have money. It's like in the NFL, the rookie boot camp. Like the rookies
Yeah.
have this like mini camp where they're literally told, like, hey, a lot of you came from nothing and now you're going to see millions. So they have to like tell them, like, you need to not do this. And most of them end up broke, because when you get that real money, it changes so much, and it's hard to get out of that mindset. So I would implement that right away to like get that going, that this is what money is going to do to you when you start seeing it. You're going to want the nice things. But if you just put it off a little bit, you can get more nice things later on. And then just overall, just approaching it at the same time as debt. Debt, your student debt's going to be there. It's just approaching it at the same time, letting it compound for you while also taking away the debt. So overall, the class should be called Psychology Money as a New Grad Dentist.
Sounds good. I would take that class. I think risk is a big thing too. My freshman year of college was the whole GameStop thing. And then me and all my friends were like in our dorm. We're convinced we're gonna be rich. We watched it go from like $35 to 350. And then of course that was when I decided to go all in. I had my Roth IRA. I put like $3,000 on GameStop. The next day it crashed. I lost like 1,500 bucks and I was like, I'm sticking with the ETS for now. Like you said, you were monitoring charts for years, and now you've been doing that. I was like, I was a newbie in all that stuff, and I thought I was a genius after that. So,
Dude,
thank
like it's my first ones. So my first time actually touching the stock market was in 2018. Same thing. Like yours was like GME, AMC. Mine were the wheat stocks, Tilray, CGC, um, Crone. I got into one. I made like at that point it was like the most money in the world. It was like $200 in a day. And I literally was like, I don't need to be a dentist. Like I'm fine. And then it came out that the company was like fraudulent and I lost it all in like one day. And I was like, depressed. Um, but that's what I don't do. Like that's to me that's not investing. Do not go for any like investing is not get rich quick. I've lost so much money over the last couple of years with anything investing to where I'm what, 7 years, 6 years into investing. I'm finally getting the hang of it. I'm seeing what's worked, what doesn't work. As long as you look at it with a long-term approach and you don't try to get rich quick with it, you're going to end up being fine. That's why I think real estate's become more passive for me because 2020, 2021, 2022 ruined real estate investing for people because they saw these people getting these 40% returns in 1 year because interest rates were so low, people were refinancing, and it made it look so much easier than what it really is to gain wealth in real estate. Real estate is built as a long-term game, not get rich quick. And so unfortunately, that's one of the worst things that people can go into is thinking they're going to get rich quick with real estate.
yeah, and stocks too. It's like if you're just doing things speculative, it's gambling. It's
Yeah.
crazy. Um, oh, I just lost my train of thought. Sorry. I
Mhm.
think that it's really important because dentists especially, and it happens in medicine too. I feel like where when you get really good at something, you spend 8 years studying something, you kind of have this idea that, oh, well, if I'm good at this, then I must be good at this and this and this, and then it can lead to a lot of loss.
100%. It's
Yeah.
very, yeah, especially in, it's just also the God complex that comes with so many healthcare workers. They don't want to admit it. Every single healthcare worker has an ego that they're afraid is going to get blemished.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, that was all I had for you today. Thank you so much. If people want to find you, where should they go?
Invest with a DDS, and then I'm changing up some content to make things a little bit more affordable for people. Bunch of courses coming out. I'm going to adjust a little bit to where it's basically everything I've done with investing up to this point. Intro to real estate, basically explaining what different strategies are. Especially there's some for like healthcare workers, like a physician's loan. Intro to stocks, basically everything that's involved in there. If you want to get involved in options, everything I've done with options up to this point is going to be there. Charting for anyone who's interested in charting, because sometimes I post that in my stories. And then the BRRRR strategy. That's the one I mentioned before, to where you can get other people to pay for the rehab, the purchase of a property, and you just give them like a monthly amount per month. And that's the one that's basically been my bread and butter with real estate in the last like 3 years. So that's gonna be coming out soon, more updated stuff. So yeah, I'll be putting that out soon.
Awesome. I'll have all that in the show notes. I got one of my friends in class is always next to me and he's looking at charts all day, so maybe I'll tell him to check you out so he doesn't lose all his money. There we go. Dr. Mackney, thank you.